Have you ever paused to consider how deeply you truly know the people closest to you? Your friends, colleagues, or neighbors? For most of us, friendship is a pillar of life, a sacred bond built on mutual trust, shared laughter, and unwavering support. We naturally bend over backward to help those we hold dear. Yet, in the darkest of circumstances, that genuine desire to extend a helping hand can turn into an unspeakable tragedy. Sometimes, the very individuals who gain our confidence and claim to care for us are merely masking sinister intentions, waiting for the precise moment to exploit our deepest vulnerabilities. In 2015, the serene provincial town of Leicester, North Carolina, was shaken to its core by a crime so ruthless it remains one of the most horrific incidents in the community's history. Christy Shawn and her husband, Joseph Codd, were viciously stolen from the world. What made their tragic demise utterly devastating was not only the cruelty of the act, but the fact that the couple was blissfully anticipating the arrival of a new addition to their family. Worse still, the cold-blooded perpetrator was not a stranger lurking in the shadows, but someone they knew intimately, trusted completely, and proudly called a friend, a ruthless individual whose destructive trail extended far beyond this single family. To understand the woman whose light was so brutally extinguished, one must look back at her vibrant, jet-setting early years. Born Christy Maria Shawn Codd on September 3, 1976, in Madrid, Spain, she was the cherished only child of an American military family. Because her father served in the United States Air Force, relocations were a constant feature of her childhood. After spending her early years traversing various European countries, the family returned to the United States. Her education began in New Orleans, Louisiana, before duty called her family to Texas, Illinois, and eventually several Latin American nations. Living such a nomadic lifestyle was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it broadened her horizons immensely. From an early age, Christy became fluent in multiple languages and absorbed the rich cultures and traditions of the places she inhabited. On the other hand, the constant moving proved challenging during her adolescence. Just as she would begin to feel grounded and form meaningful bonds, it was time to pack up, change schools, and leave her social circles behind. Yet, rather than letting isolation take root, Christy turned these constant disruptions into her greatest strength. She developed extraordinary interpersonal skills, transforming into a sweet, highly sociable, and naturally charismatic young woman who could easily find common ground with anyone she met. In addition to her social charm, Christy possessed an energetic spirit and a passion for physical activity. Growing up, she excelled in gymnastics and swimming, and even dedicated time to training in kickboxing. When her father finally retired from military service, the family settled in Biloxi, Mississippi, providing Christy with the long-sought stability to cultivate lasting friendships. It was there that she discovered a deep-seated passion for the culinary arts. She spent countless hours in the kitchen, experimenting with flavors and crafting remarkable dishes that earned widespread praise. Driven to refine her craft, she completed formal culinary courses, leading her parents to believe she was destined for a career as a professional chef. However, Christy's vibrant ambitions did not stop at the kitchen line. She soon discovered a natural gift for acting. Brimming with talent and beauty, the ambitious young woman enrolled in an acting academy and relocated to Los Angeles, eagerly seizing every opportunity, including commercial roles, to leave her indelible mark on the world. Christy's magnetic presence soon extended onto the theater stage and into high-profile Hollywood productions, where she worked as an extra and a stunt performer. Notably, she showcased her daring side by executing risky stunts in the Terminator franchise. By the time she graduated from the academy in 2000, major breakout roles had still eluded her, despite her striking beauty and undeniable talent. Undeterred, she strategically pivoted back to her dual passions, culinary arts and fitness, turning them into a highly lucrative enterprise. Her vibrant personality shone brightly on popular culinary television shows, eventually earning her a coveted finalist spot on the next Food Network star. Although mixed reviews from the judges on her bold culinary experiments kept her from claiming the top prize, Christy remained remarkably unfazed. The national exposure gained her thousands of devoted social media followers who eagerly tracked her life, healthy lifestyle advice, and custom fitness routines. Capitalizing on her growing popularity, Christy launched her own successful catering company about a year later. Her business specialized in high-end event catering and retail prepared foods, distinguishing itself with a strict focus on wholesome nutrition and her own innovative recipes. Driven by an ambitious vision to scale her enterprise, she began planning an organic farm to source fresh, eco-friendly produce directly for her menus, all while conducting online nutrition courses and managing multiple creative ventures. Her life took a monumental turn in 2012 when she crossed paths with Joseph Timothy Codd, famously known as JT, a seasoned television casting director responsible for scouting talent for top-rated shows. The two met at a Los Angeles studio during a casting call for a culinary program Christy aimed to join, and the spark was instantaneous. Joseph, who was nearly 7 years her senior and finalizing a divorce, was utterly captivated by her radiant charm and elegance. He pursued her enthusiastically, and a deep romantic partnership quickly blossomed. Sharing a unified vision for their future, Joseph wholeheartedly embraced Christy's dream of building a sustainable farm. Ready for a fresh chapter, the couple made the bold decision to leave sunny California behind. They sold Christy's thriving catering business along with Joseph's Hollywood home, pooling their resources to purchase a spacious house set on nearly an acre of picturesque land in Leicester, North Carolina. In this peaceful setting, Joseph continued his casting work remotely, while Christy focused on expanding her lifestyle blog. They were a picture-perfect pair, living in absolute harmony. In August 2014, they formalized their devotion with a lavish wedding attended by hundreds of loved ones, colleagues, neighbors, and adoring fans. Barely 3 months after celebrating their dream wedding, the glowing newlyweds received the joyous news that they were expecting their first child together, setting the stage for what should have been the happiest chapter of their lives. Upon receiving the wondrous news that they were going to become parents for the very first time, Christy and Joseph's joy knew no bounds. Shortly after the new year, a routine ultrasound revealed they were expecting a baby girl, and a few days later, Christy excitedly shared during a phone call with her mother that they had chosen the name Skylar for their firstborn. Everything seemed to be falling into place perfectly as the pregnancy progressed smoothly and peacefully. But this period of pure happiness proved tragically short-lived. By mid-March 2015, 5 months pregnant and eagerly preparing for her daughter's arrival, Christy maintained her daily habit of calling her parents in Mississippi. She regularly updated them on her health and frequently spent up to an hour chatting with her mother on the phone. However, on March 13th, Christy's mother was unable to reach her. Initially dismissing her concern, she tried again the following day, only for her calls to go completely unanswered. Attempts to reach her son-in-law, Joseph, yielded the same unsettling silence. When March 15th arrived and both of the couple's cell phones were entirely turned off, panic set in. Because both families resided out of state and could not quickly visit the property, Christy's mother reached out to a close local friend named Cecily, asking her to check on the newlyweds. Arriving at the Codd residence, Cecily found both of the couple's personal vehicles parked outside, yet the front door was firmly locked and nobody answered her repeated knocks and calls. The fact that their phones had been inactive for 3 full days raised immediate red flags. Looking through a window, Cecily's concern deepened when she spotted the couple's beloved dogs locked inside one of the rooms, pets they cherished deeply and would never voluntarily abandon without care. Walking around to inspect the perimeter, Cecily discovered that the rear door lock had been violently broken, leaving clear signs of forced entry. She immediately alerted Christy's mother, who promptly contacted local law enforcement. Officers arriving at the scene confirmed the break-in and found the home's interior in disarray, suggesting a chaotic search had taken place. Relatives noted that several valuables were missing, including a jewelry box belonging to Christy, while a safe in the couple's bedroom had been breached. Strikingly, there were no traces of blood, signs of a physical struggle, or evidence that the couple had been forcibly bound or abducted. Furthermore, the intruder had operated with calculating precision, leaving behind no detectable fingerprints or DNA evidence. While relatives clung desperately to the fragile hope that 38-year-old pregnant Christy and 45-year-old Joseph were still alive, seasoned investigators harbored grim doubts about their safety. In its initial stages, the investigation hit a daunting standstill, lacking concrete leads or physical evidence. The missing couple had no known enemies, making it exceedingly difficult for detectives to reconstruct the events even in broad strokes. Their cell phones had been left behind in the house, showing no activity since March 12, save for unanswered incoming calls the next day before the batteries finally died. Seeking a breakthrough, police began interviewing neighbors to determine if anyone had witnessed suspicious behavior. A significant clue emerged when a neighbor living directly across the street reported seeing another local resident tossing a large, bulky bundle into a trash bin near the Codd property on the morning of March 15th. Though he paid little attention to it at the time, the couple's disappearance prompted him to report the incident. Unfortunately, examining the dumpster was no longer an option, as the local sanitation services had already cleared the trash and taken it to the landfill. To uncover any potential evidence, police faced the daunting task of sifting through the town landfill, but first, they needed to interrogate the resident seen discarding the suspicious bundle. That individual turned out to be 36-year-old Robert Jason Owens, a neighbor who lived on the same street and was considered a trusted family friend by the Codds. As a skilled handyman, Robert had assisted Christy and Joseph when they initially moved into their home, forging a close bond that even earned him an invitation to their lavish wedding. While his connection to the couple seemed harmless on the surface, other local residents painted a chillingly different picture, describing Owens as an eccentric and highly unpredictable man. On March 16th, Robert was brought to the police station for questioning. He staunchly denied any involvement in the couple's disappearance, claiming complete ignorance regarding the discarded bundle. With no physical evidence linking him to a crime and only an uncorroborated neighborly account, investigators lacked sufficient grounds to hold him. However, the trajectory of the investigation shifted dramatically that evening, when searchers located the mysterious bundle at the landfill. Inside lay a horrific treasure trove of evidence. Items stolen from the missing couple's residence, including partially scorched clothing, a blood-soaked blanket, and a throw rug. Most damningly, investigators recovered clear fingerprints and DNA belonging to Robert on the blood-stained fabrics. This discovery confirmed the detectives' worst fears. Christy and Joseph were no longer alive. Any remaining doubt evaporated when a search warrant executed at Owens's home revealed charred human skeletal remains resting inside his wood-burning stove. Arrested as the prime suspect in the gruesome slayings, Robert endured hours of grueling interrogation. Though he initially offered conflicting and evasive statements, he eventually yielded and delivered a horrifying confession. Claiming the tragedy was a catastrophic accident, Robert stated that on the evening of March 12, he swerved off the road to avoid hitting a dog while driving to the Codd's house, causing his vehicle to get stuck in the mud. He walked to their home to ask for help, and the couple warmly agreed to assist him. According to Robert, while Christy and Joseph were behind the car trying to push it free, he accidentally slammed his foot on the accelerator instead of the brake, striking and running over both of them. Terrified of being held responsible for taking their lives, he panicked and chose not to call emergency services. Instead, he orchestrated a cold-blooded cover-up. Robert admitted to breaking into the rear door of the Codd's home to gather blankets to wrap the bodies, claiming he was unsure if they were truly deceased. He loaded them into the bed of his pickup truck, drove back to his house, and dismembered their remains in his bathroom using a saw and a small axe. He then stoked his wood stove, burning the couple's remains piece by piece in a desperate attempt to eradicate the evidence. Oddly, he chose not to burn their blood-drenched clothing, footwear, and bedding, opting instead to pack them into a trash bag and toss them into the neighborhood dumpster. To finalize his cover-up, Robert staged a burglary at the victimized home, stealing cash and personal valuables that he pawned the following day. The utter savagery with which Robert destroyed his friends' bodies, paired with the unsettling tranquility with which he detailed his horrific acts, deeply unnerved even veteran investigators. Inside his residence, police subsequently recovered the saw and axe, both still bearing grim traces of blood. The accused had not even bothered to clean or conceal the tools, driven by a cold confidence that the investigation would never trace back to him since he had left no physical evidence at the Codd residence. However, forensic analysis soon provided definitive proof. The bone fragments recovered from Owens's stove belonged to the missing couple. Deepening their inquiry into the suspect's background, law enforcement revealed that Robert was unmarried, had no children, and maintained virtually no contact with his relatives. He had previously lived in Asheville, North Carolina, before purchasing land in Leicester in 2000, where he subsequently built his home. Disturbingly, Detectives discovered that his name was inextricably tied to an unsolved mystery from 15 years prior. In January 2000, Robert's close childhood friend, 18-year-old Zeb Quinn, vanished without a trace in Asheville. Zeb, who was undergoing military training while working part-time at Walmart, met with Robert after his shift on January 2nd to drive toward Leicester with the intention of buying a new car. He never returned home. Days later, his Mazda protege was located in another part of town, abandoned with its headlights on and a heart drawn on the rear window in red lipstick. The car exhibited exterior damage with paint transfers from another vehicle, and the last person to see Zeb alive was Robert, whose own car bore matching damage and paint particles from Zeb's vehicle. During the initial 2000 investigation, Robert offered a convoluted story. He claimed that while driving, Zeb flashed his headlights to pull over, stating he had received a pager message and needed a payphone. According to Robert, Zeb drove off to a nearby gas station, returned 10 minutes later looking frantic, announced that their plans were off, and sped away, accidentally clipping Robert's car in the process. Investigators noted several glaring inconsistencies. Zeb's car was stripped of the large sum of cash he had brought for the prospective car purchase, along with his pager. Moreover, the day after his disappearance, an unidentified man called Zeb's workplace, claiming Zeb was sick. The suspicious supervisor who answered traced the call to the Volvo manufacturing plant where Robert worked. When confronted, Robert claimed he made the call as a favor to Zeb, although Zeb had previously received threats from Wesley Smith, the jealous ex-boyfriend of a woman named Misty Taylor whom Zeb was seeing. Both Wesley and Misty had solid alibis. Lacking definitive physical evidence, police were forced to release Robert, and the case went cold with Zeb listed as a missing person. 15 years later, following his arrest for the Codd murders, the investigation into Zeb Quinn's disappearance was officially reopened in June 2015. Initially, Robert stuck rigidly to his original 2000 statement, offering no new details. Refusing to back down, detectives executed a comprehensive search of his Leicester property. Their persistence paid off when they uncovered a bizarrely sealed-off cavity beneath a detached concrete slab on the premises. Inside lay heavily charred human bone fragments. Though the extreme heat damage rendered DNA extraction impossible at the time, the chilling discovery further solidified the terrifying reality of the monster living in their midst. While DNA analysis could not definitively confirm whether the remains belonged to Zeb Quinn, a neighbor's testimony yielded a breakthrough. An elderly local recalled an incident from January 2000, around the time Owens bought the land and began constructing his home. One evening, Owens ignited a fire that released a sickly sweet, nauseating stench. The neighbor had confronted him about the overwhelming odor blowing toward his home. Shortly after, Owens poured concrete over the fire pit, claiming he intended to build a fountain, a project he never completed. The neighbor forgot about the foul-smelling fire until police returned 15 years later. Faced with this discovery, Owens offered a brand new narrative, claiming complicity rather than sole guilt. He alleged that Zeb was murdered by his own uncle, Walter Owens, who had been hired by Wesley Smith to eliminate Misty's new boyfriend. According to Robert, he was unaware of the plot when his uncle asked him to lure Zeb to a secluded location. When the three men reached a wooded area on the road to Leicester, Walter ordered them to stop and signal Zeb to do the same. As soon as Zeb stepped out of his car, Walter shot him, then forced Robert to help dismember, package, and burn the body on his property before encasing the remains in concrete. Verifying this story proved impossible, as Walter Owens had died several years prior, and no physical evidence was recovered from the alleged crime scene. Initially, Robert faced first-degree murder charges for the Codds, the murder of an unborn child, dismemberment, concealment of evidence, burglary, and robbery, offenses carrying the death penalty. However, defense attorneys highlighted his long history of depression and mental disorders, arguing that powerful medications impaired his judgment. Facing the risk of an insanity verdict that could send Owens to a psychiatric facility rather than prison, an outcome acceptable to neither prosecutors nor the victims' families, the prosecution pursued a plea agreement in 2017. Owens pled guilty to second-degree manslaughter, dismemberment, incineration of remains, burglary, and robbery in the Codd case. Receiving a 59-year prison sentence while eliminating the death penalty. In 2022, he entered another plea deal regarding Zeb Quinn's case, admitting to complicity in murder and assisting in concealing evidence, which added 12 years to his effective life sentence. Addressing the court, Owens asked the families for forgiveness, maintaining that the deaths were unfortunate accidents fueled by his mental health struggles and heavy medication. However, the families of Christy, Joseph, and Zeb rejected his pleas, steadfastly believing he acted deliberately out of selfish, sinister motives.